The sun hovered above the small airfield like a bright promise, stretching golden light across the rows of silent aircraft. The wind carried a hint of fuel and summer grass, a smell that brought memories rushing back for Aiden Cross. He stood beside the faded, green military helicopter that once helped him rescue lives across borders no one ever wanted to cross. Today, it was nothing more than a relic in a dusty hangar, a weekend display for curious visitors. He ran his hand along its metal frame, feeling the dents, the scratches, the history. Aiden had returned from service 2 years ago with medals in his drawer and nightmares in his bed. He had a daughter, Sophia, who was the only reason he kept waking up every morning. He had a past filled with quiet grief and unspoken sacrifices. He never expected that a simple Saturday trip to this small community aviation event would shift the weight he carried inside his chest. Before the story continues, viewers who believe in kindness, second chances, and new beginnings are invited to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Your support helps keep these powerful true-to-life stories flying high. Crowds formed in lines for helicopter tours, guided by volunteers from a local flight school. Among them was Maya Benton, a bright, confident pilot with a spark in her eyes. She loved the sky with the same energy others reserved for love itself. She teased, laughed, and chatted with the visitors, making the world around her feel alive. The day was warm and buzzing with excitement, yet Maya found her attention pulled to Aiden more than once. There was a seriousness in him that didn't match the cheerfulness of the event. He seemed like a man who had lived 1,000 lifetimes. She found herself curious, drawn to him in a way that felt strange for a first meeting. Aiden had brought Sophia to see the helicopters, hoping to give her a glimpse of the world he once belonged to. She was 8 years old, with bright eyes that refused to dim even when life tried to push her down. She tugged his hand, begging him to take her closer to the aircraft. Her joy almost made him forget the fear that still hovered over him, a fear of failing as a parent, of letting his daughter see the cracks inside him. Sophia's mother had left when she was 3, tired of waiting through long deployments and tired of the emotional distance that came home with him. Since then, Aiden had become both father and mother, always trying, always wondering if his best would ever be enough. When Maya approached them, she noticed Sophia's excitement first, then Aiden's caution. She smiled and offered a tour of the retired helicopter parked nearby. As they walked, she chatted lightly, eager to lift the quiet weight surrounding Aiden. She pointed at the rotor blades, at the cockpit windows reflecting the high afternoon sun, explaining how pilots read wind patterns like stories written across the sky. Sophia listened with awe, her small hands pressed over her mouth from excitement. Aiden watched them both, feeling something unfamiliar, peace. He had met people who were curious about his past, some who pitied it, and others who were intimidated by it. Meyer instead seemed to see him as a person here and now, not a broken soldier from yesterday. When they reached the cockpit, Maya joked lightly that the helicopter still worked if someone knew the right tricks. She nudged him in playfulness and told him that if he could fly it, she would marry him on the spot. It was a light-hearted line, just part of her personality, a bold tease she expected him to brush off with a laugh. Instead, she watched his eyes shift, a memory flickering behind them. Something pulled at him, a challenge, a reminder of the pilot he once was. He asked if she was serious, a small smile touching the corner of his mouth for the first time. Maya laughed at herself, suddenly shy under the warmth in his stare. She hadn't expected her playful comment to land so deeply. It had been so long since Aiden sat in a cockpit. The missions, the adrenaline, the constant vigilance had left him exhausted by the time he retired. He had promised himself to stay grounded for Sophia. Yet something awakened in his hands when he stepped closer to the pilot door. He lifted Sophia into the passenger seat and breathed deeply as he climbed into his own. The leather, the levers, the sharp smell of old metal, everything felt like home. Maya's heart skipped as she realized he wasn't just pretending. When he adjusted the straps and flipped switches with practiced familiarity, she felt her pulse race. There was no hesitation in his actions. This wasn't a hobby for him. This was his life once. The engine rumbled and roared, sending vibrations through the ground beneath them. Spectators noticed, turning in surprise. A volunteer rushed over before halting abruptly, staring in shock at the suddenly awakened machine. Maya stood frozen, her joke echoing in her ears. She hadn't known. She hadn't realized she was making a promise to a man who had soared above war zones and saved people under impossible skies. The helicopter's rotors spun, and dust swirled around like a miniature storm. Sophia laughed with excitement, gripping her father's arm. She had never seen him like this. Aiden didn't lift the craft, but he kept the engine alive long enough to feel alive with it. He shut it down only when he noticed the wide eyes around him. When he climbed down, there was a confidence in his step he hadn't felt for years. Maya felt a flush rise to her cheeks, half embarrassment, half admiration. She apologized teasingly, trying to lighten the weight of what she had said earlier about marriage. Aiden shook his head gently, assuring her he wasn't expecting anything from that joke. Yet there was something sincere in the warm exchange between them, a spark neither could deny. The moment was small, but for two lonely hearts, it felt monumental. Over the following weeks, Maya found reasons to visit the coffee shop where Aiden usually stopped after dropping Sophia at school. At first, their conversations were simple. They talked about Sophia's love for art and Aiden's struggle to adjust to civilian life. They spoke of Maya's dream to one day run her own flight school, a place that offered hope to veterans like him. They confided in each other about fears they rarely shared. Aiden discovered that it was safe to laugh again, and Maya discovered it was possible to care for someone deeper than she ever had. They started doing weekend outings. Sophia adored Maya, and Maya treated her with gentle affection. Aiden began to feel life expand again, no longer confined by walls of anxiety. He slowly learned to stop blaming himself for everything that went wrong. Maya saw the strength inside him that he refused to see in himself. She saw a father who put his child before everything, a man who only wanted to protect and love in the best way he knew how. Their connection felt less like coincidence and more like fate stepping in after years of sorrow. Yet shadows from the past came back sometimes. Aiden still woke some nights shaking, gasping for air. He still avoided mirrors on bad days because he hated how tired grief made him look. Maya never forced him to talk. She simply stayed beside him, knowing love sometimes meant silence and presence more than words. She told him softly through her actions that healing did not require perfection, only patience. He didn't have to be flawless to be worthy of love. Months later, another event was held at the same airfield. This time, Maya invited Aiden to sit in the pilot's seat again, with her beside him. The morning sky was bright, a wide canvas of hope stretching overhead. Aiden hesitated, feeling nerves creep up, but Sophia squeezed his hand and told him she believed in him. With Maya guiding him through the process, they lifted the helicopter just a few feet off the ground for a short hover. The crowd clapped, but Aiden heard only the heartbeat of the woman beside him and the joyful laughter of the daughter, who believed in him more than he believed in himself. Landing felt like arriving home. Maya looked at him with quiet admiration. She remembered her joking words from their first meeting. She realized that in a way, her heart had made that promise long before her lips did. Aiden climbed out, lifting Sophia into his arms, and saw Maya standing there with tears she didn't try to hide. He walked up to her slowly, with gratitude filling his entire chest, and he whispered that she had saved him without ever needing to fly into danger. She had helped him rise again when he no longer believed he could. Viewers who feel moved by Aiden's courage and Maya's loyalty are invited to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Stories like this remind us that love often finds us when the sky seems darkest. As the afternoon sun warmed their faces, Aidan reached into his pocket with trembling fingers. He did not kneel. He simply held Maya's hand, placed a small silver ring in her palm, and asked if she would share every sunrise from now on. Sophia wrapped her arms around them both, almost bursting with excitement. Maya nodded with a soft laugh through her tears. She told him she already said yes the day he made that helicopter roar back to life. Special request: please comment a heart if you believe every hero deserves a peaceful home and someone who sees their true worth. Their story reminds everyone watching that healing is possible, love is possible, and new beginnings can rise exactly where old dreams once crashed. Aidan had lost so much, yet life gifted him a second chance wrapped in the kindness of a bold pilot and a child's unconditional faith. In the calm daylight, surrounded by drifting clouds and cheering strangers, Aidan knew he was done merely surviving. He was ready to live. The helicopter stood behind them, silent again, yet it no longer felt like a relic. It felt like a reminder that wings can be found in the most unexpected places. There was a time Aidan believed he would never soar again. Now, with Maya's hand in his and Sophia smiling up at them, he understood something simple and powerful. Sometimes love doesn't land softly. Sometimes it arrives loud and shaking the ground, like a helicopter engine roaring back to life, asking you to choose hope one more time.